Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Austin and Sierra, the family business.
Where family is business and business is law.
Hey, that way.
Yeah. And our show and our channel, is all about being able to really just give you all insight to us, building a family and building a business together at the same time.
Yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in with us. Hopefully, you'll follow us. We are meant to give you guys the best experience while you are watching. So, thank you for tuning in. Let's get it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, your past is not your future.
Mm.
What does that mean to you, by the way?
Well, when I hear your past is not your future, to me, I think about, just your current either past or current hardships or circumstances and not allowing that to dictate your potential and the
Mm.
potential of success in different areas of your life.
Yeah, I totally agree. Your past only makes you stronger. Your past makes you who you are today. So when you look in the mirror and you might see a broken person because of what you've been through, well, understand those broken pieces are just the pieces to your puzzle. So as you put that together, you're able to now see the full being that you're meant to be. So don't get discouraged. Don't be ashamed of your past because it doesn't dictate your future. It doesn't make you who you are, but it's preparing you to who you're going to become.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, let's talk about it. Let's talk about you and your past, and let's talk about the hardships. And the reason why I want to highlight the hardships because at the end of the day, it's it's the hardships that's really make you strong. It's
That's
the
true.
hardships that prepare you to be able to go through adverse situations. So let's talk about your past and some of your hardships that you have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've gone through a lot, and a lot of different things that a lot of people can probably relate to. And I used to be really ashamed to talk about it, because I always thought, well, what are people going to think about me now? If they know about some of the things that I've gone through before. But I've realized that it's really helped just empower me and empower a lot of other people. Because
Right.
people will see like me on social media posting content, making videos, but they don't know that when growing up as a kid, I really struggled with like my self-esteem and my self-image. I was very kind of like socially awkward, still kind of am, but I grew up very socially awkward, but I did really well in school. But when it came to like making friends and, finding girlfriends, like that was always something that I really, really struggled with.
And why do you think you struggle with that?
I think a lot of it boils down to the self esteem issues I think that I had. I grew up in an area, and if you guys know anything about Gilbert, Arizona, it's not a very diverse, city at all. And so I really struggled with the way that I looked. I was a little bit of like the chunkier kid. And then again, I was very like shy, quiet, socially awkward. And so I just had a hard time with making friends. I've always felt like I was kind of like that oddball out. I wasn't really interested in a lot of things that like the popular kids were interested in. I just didn't fit in, and that was my biggest struggle.
Yeah, that's important to really dive deep into that because when you look at the person you are today, understand that those insecurities, those hardships, those things that you've been through really makes you the strong person that you are today. It was really preparing you for your better version of yourself. Can you kind of dive deeper into those hardships and those insecurities? Any stories?
Yeah, I mean, I remember in high school, I think I was like a freshman in high school, and I'm sure you guys can remember back to those times. You want to look cool, you want to fit in with the in crowd, and I really struggled with that. And so I remember I used to actually go and eat lunch in the school bathroom because I was so afraid of going into the lunchroom and having nobody to sit with. I didn't want to just be roaming around trying to find the spot. I was so awkward. So I would sit in there and eat lunch. And if I wasn't eating in the bathroom, I would just go walk around school and try to make it look like I had somewhere to go, even though I had nowhere to go. I just didn't want to be seen as that loner or that person that didn't have any friends, because like I said, self image was so important at that age. And I just had no confidence in myself whatsoever. And Even though at the time it was very hard and I didn't understand why that was happening to me, where I felt that way. But I'm grateful for it now because I think it's played a big role in being able to, be successful in social media and online because I'm now comfortable with, not fitting in. I'm comfortable with kind of being that outlier.
Yeah, and it's really made you have tougher skin because being able to go through those situations where you're in a you're in a school where status is important, especially in high school terms, but you are able to navigate and disenfranchise those feelings and understand that they don't know you.
Right.
They might not want to be my friend, or they might not see the value in me, but I am valuable. You have value, and I believe that's why you're able to really inspire so many people, is because you've been through those things. Because when people don't see the value that's around you every day, it just makes more room for the other people that aren't around you, that can see you from a distance and they can see your light shining bright. So I think that's very important. Do you remember the first day when you just felt like, okay, I might not have a lot of friends? Do you just remember that moment of just like, okay, I have to go eat in the bathroom? Like, what was that moment when you felt like you had to go do that? Like, do you remember the moment, or what was it, a situation that happened? Like, what's events led up to you actually doing that?
I don't remember exactly. I just remember every day, like I would dread lunchtime. Like most kids are excited to go to lunch in school, but I would dread it because I'm like, wow, okay, I don't know where I'm going to sit, who I'm going to sit with. I didn't know anybody. Like school had just started, I didn't know anyone. And so I just remember going to get my lunch and realizing, okay, I have no idea what to do. So I literally just left and went into the bathroom because I didn't want people to see me. Because everyone had friends, they had their groups, their cliques, and I didn't have anybody.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Do you think it was more so of you in your own head, or was it just like, okay, no one wants to sit with me?
As an adult now, it was probably all in my head for sure. I don't think that anyone would have came to my face and laughed at me for sitting by myself. I think it was definitely all in my head, but I was so worried about how other people perceived me or like
Mm,
what they thought about me. So I was like, I'd rather eat in the bathroom than someone to think that I don't have friends, or someone to think that I'm a loser when they probably weren't even thinking about me.
yeah, and yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Because a lot of times as kids, we internalize so much,
Yeah, we
and
do.
we see and we think that, okay, if we're not a part of a certain group or crowd, then people might think we're weird. But in all actuality, you just have to find your type of people. You have to find your tribe. You have to find your group. As an athlete myself, I always hung around mostly athletes, so that was my community. I really didn't have that same fear because I know that, okay, I'm playing sports. These people are interested in the same things as I, so I really didn't have that. But for me personally, I tell this story a lot now. Um, I used to wear a mask, and not in a literal sense, but
Right.
more so, I used to hide who I really was because I was afraid. Same thing. I was afraid of what people might have thought of me, because if I didn't play sports, or if I didn't be a cool kid in school, I would. I was thinking that, okay, kids are gonna think I'm weird, or they're gonna think I'm an outcast. Growing up, I was the guy that just like to be to myself. A lot of people don't even know that because I was a social butterfly, so they thought. I knew how to be a chameleon and just adapt to my situation because I wanted to be the guy that fit in. I just wanted to be amongst my peers, and I wanted to be the guy that, what I mean, got along with everyone. But in all actuality, I'd rather be left alone, and I'd rather just be to myself. I was always very much a nerd. I always had short attention span. Always very artistic. I would just rather go to school and just draw all day. If
Right.
that's was a school, growing up, I would love to go to that school. But in my case, I always just adapted. But who I really was, I hid that. So I just want to let anyone know that's listening right now that it's okay to be yourself. You don't have to hide who you really are. Once again, you just have to find your group of people, because at the end of the day, you are unique, and what makes you you is the difference between other individuals. That's what makes you unique. That's what makes you you. So at the end of the day, you just have to find your people, and you just have to be able to be okay with who you are. Definitely, I definitely think that parents don't really talk to their kids enough
Mm.
about these situations. And it's because parents are so busy. They're going to work, they have families, other children.
Yeah,
There's a lot going on in a parent's life, a lot going on in a parent's life. So I understand that these conversations really aren't had.
that's
Did
true.
you feel like that you can go talk to your mother about it?
No, honestly, and I don't even think she even knew I felt that way until after the fact when I started talking about it, like, on social media and just telling people
Mm,
my story. I don't think she knew, but you're right. Parents really don't have those conversations. And it's kind of interesting that we had kind of a similar experience, but different at the same time, where it's like,
right.
we were so worried about how other people would perceive us, and so that really dictated the way that we acted, even though, like I said, we had different experiences. But I think there's a lot of people, even adults right now, that are hiding their true selves
Right.
just to be liked by the masses or just to fit into a certain group or crowd. But I think those are conversations that need to be had so that people do know that, hey, it's okay to be just yourself,
Yeah.
it's
It's okay.
okay.
Yeah. And speaking of thinking of being an outcast, I had a kid at 15 years old on purpose.
Mm.
I was the kid that was afraid to be himself, but I also made rational decisions based on how I felt at that moment. And I tell a lot of people I was always in tune with myself. I always knew what I wanted, but I never said I made the right or the best decisions, put it like that. I never said I made the best decision, but I always knew what I wanted to do at that moment in time. And I feel like normalizing getting to know your kids' emotions are very important because you never know what your child is going through if you never really ask them and make them feel comfortable to come and talk to you. Having a kid at 15, it was a big joke. It was like, wow, this kid is 15 years old, barely a teenager, and he has a child already. Like,
Yeah.
I go to all type of events and football games, and my son age group, their parents are like 40s, and I'm coming
Right.
out, young and a teenager, and it was awkward and weird, and I really didn't know how to navigate through that. I really didn't know how to deal with it because I was at the end of the day I was ashamed that I had a kid at 15, but I know that it was what I wanted. But I felt like that if someone would have just came and said, you know what, the decision you made was a rational one, it might even been an irrational one, but you made this decision because you wanted to. Now, figure out how you can be able to be the best version of yourself with a kid at that young age.
Mm.
Somebody would have came and just told me that. I think I really would have felt a lot better about my situation because it took me so long to adjust to the fact that okay, you're a dad. Even though I
Right.
wanted one, I didn't really know what all went into it. So
Right. Right.
it really affected the way I raised my son, and it affected our relationship because I didn't know how to be that at 15.
Mm.
And with that being said, I'm really appreciative of my parents because they always helped me and they always did everything that they could for me at that age, especially with a child. So I really appreciate that. But if I would have just known how to be able to love myself, because I made the
Mm.
decision to have a child because I felt like no one loved me.
Mm.
My sister used to go. So me and my sister, right? My mom.
Right.
My mom have two children. My older sister and I. My sister used to go see her dad every summer. I used to feel so bad inside that I felt like no one loved me. I felt like, well, I don't have a father. You know what I mean? No one loves me enough to spend time with me. So it always affected me. So I always felt like family was important, but I was so insecure about not having a dad. I acted out. I remember being at school and he had mom jokes and dad jokes, but the
Right.
dad jokes really hit a little bit different, especially when you never had a dad. It was like, oh, well, your dad went to the store to get milk and never came back. It was like, oh, at least I have a dad. And it's just like, you
Right.
know what I mean? It was just like, well, I don't even know who my dad is.
Mm.
And it felt so uncomfortable as a kid. So anger is what I cope with. And I use my anger to be able to hide and mask the hurt that I didn't have a father or I didn't know who my father was. So it really affected me. So really paying attention to your children's emotions and their everyday lives, being involved is important because you never know what they're going through. And as a
Right.
kid, their mind is it's like a sponge. They absorb everything, but they may not understand everything.
Right.
they'll mimic anything, but they might not understand their own self. So I just think it's important to normalize those conversations of knowing your kids' emotions and how do they feel from a day to day.
No, I agree with that. And I think also starting to kind of dissect your own feelings that you had from childhood, because I think as adults, we don't always realize the effect that the events that happen to us as children, how much they affect our adult life. You know, we don't really talk about that or think about that, but those feelings, affect the way that you run your day to day as an adult. And a lot of people allow those types of things to hold them back,
Right.
and especially as, like you said, you had a kid at 15, I'm sure a lot of people counted you out, and so being able to take that and really just turn it around into a positive situation, a lot of people aren't able to do that. And maybe they just don't know how to do that because they haven't actually faced those feelings that they had or the trauma that they had as a kid.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people counted me out. A lot of people didn't really expect for me to be in the position that I am today. And I can't really say that I blame them. I let that be my fuel. I let that be my I just really let it be my motivation. When I heard people and they said, "Oh, okay, you got a kid at 15, you're not gonna be much, you're not gonna be able to find happiness, you're not gonna be successful, you're not gonna be able to leave this small town." I used that as my motivation and I turned that into my fuel. So definitely was counted out, but I can't blame them because if you look at it from, just for what it is, kid at 15,
Right.
it doesn't look as prosperous.
Right.
It doesn't look as hopeful when you just think about, okay, this person not gonna be successful. He's already messed up his life. I don't blame them, but I definitely don't think that they know who I was because
Mm.
I'm the type of person that no matter what people say, no matter what obstacle, I'm gonna give him my all.
Mm.
I'm gonna go so hard. I'm gonna push past every limitation, not only my own, but others people limitation.
Yeah.
I'm gonna break through that ceiling that people have put over me, and I'm gonna jump out this glass house. And I don't think a lot of people even knew that about me. They didn't know who I was. And honestly, I really loved it because I feel like I thrive in that negative thought. I feel like I did better when I felt like my back was against the wall. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's really like you said, being able to use that as fuel and motivation.
Right.
Because like on the days where maybe you probably wanted to give up, it's like, no, I can't give up because there's people counting on me to give up.
They waiting.
They're waiting. And so being able to just turn your circumstances and realize, just because, I've gone through this or this happened to me, I can still be successful.
Right.
It's really just up to you to make that decision because it can go one or two ways, but
Right.
whichever way that you go, it's 100% on you.
Right. So what's some advice right now, for people that are going through a lot of hardship and they feel like that they don't have a bright future? What is some advice you can give them?
Well, I heard a quote one time. I can't remember who said it, but it's a pretty popular one, so you probably heard it before. But it said something of the nature like, "If you believe that you can or you believe that you can't, either way, you're right."
Mm.
So it's really up to you and just your mindset and your view on your life. If you believe that, hey, I've gone through these things and there's just no way I can make it out and be successful, then that just might be your reality.
Right.
So you really have to just see yourself in a better position. So even if you're not, your bank account isn't matching up to what you want or you're going through a lot of hardships, the number one focus on your mind should be what you want in life and where you want to be. And I think that'll help you get past a lot of the things that you're going through right now.
Right. And understanding too, it's okay to seek help. It's okay to talk to people, but find people that you trust to talk to and be able to feel comfortable with confiding into those type of people. So my biggest advice is seek help and understand it's okay to be sad. It's okay to not know, but just try to seek help for that. So I think this was a great topic today.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I appreciate you all for tuning in. And I appreciate you all for just subscribing and liking this content. We also would love to hear more topics to speak on. So if you have any, leave them down below in the comments. And we'll get to them.
Yeah. So that is it for this episode of Austin and Sierra, the family business, where family is business and business is law.
Thank you for tuning in.
See ya.